The queer experience is different for every LGBTQ person. For me, it means a sense of mission and purpose. My coming out involved a lot of hurt, a lot of frustration, and at times loneliness. And that's the same for a lot of LGBTQ persons. For me, that translated into wanting to do work to improve the lives of LGBTQ youth across our state. And in 2007, I was able to start in a role that allowed me to do that. Now, during this time, from 2007 to today and on, we've seen a lot of advancements for LGBTQ equality. I've been able to see federal hate crimes law expand to allow gender identity, Don't Ask, Don't Tell repealed, employment protections here in Iowa, and of course, marriage equality. But what does this look like for queer youth in our state and across the country? We know that while these policies have changed, the experiences for queer youth are staying the same. So I looked up in statistics from 2007. The 2007 GLSEN National School Climate Survey, which surveyed LGBTQ youth, found that 60.8% of LGBTQ youth in this country felt unsafe in their school because of their sexual orientation. The most recent survey available, the 2015 National School Climate Survey, said 57.6% of LGBTQ youth felt unsafe at school because of their sexual orientation. During this time, the same statistic, 5 to 10 times more likely to attempt suicide than their heterosexual or cisgender peers. And 40% of all homeless youth in this country are LGBTQ. The stats simply aren't changing. Now, when I started in this role, there was this big meeting I got to go to, one of the first ones, and I sat down and there was someone from a national organization showed up. It's a big deal when you work for a state group and national comes to town. So there's national, there's all of us LGBTQ leaders, and they had this big whiteboard, and they had us list out the priorities of our community. Employment protections, Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal, and marriage was at the front and center of it. And I, like everyone else in the room in 2007 at the time, laughed it off. Marriage, that's never gonna happen, that's 50 years from now, no one likes us, oh, it's gonna be forever, right? Well, prove me wrong, 2 years later, Iowa became the third state in the country for marriage equality, and in 2015, the US Supreme Court ruled in favor. And that was a big achievement. And marriage is a big deal, it really is. It means you can make healthcare decisions for your partner. It means if one spouse is an immigrant, they're able to advance quicker on citizenship without fear of deportation. But I would argue something is just as important. It's the issues impacting queer youth. So back at that meeting, I kept raising my hand and going, hey, hi, yes, I think we should be talking about conversion therapy. It's this practice that impacts 1 in 3 LGBTQ persons. It's this idea you can change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity through therapy or abuse. We should be talking about that. Hey, what about those homeless youth? Hi, what about GSAs, supporting gay straight alliances in our schools? That makes a big impact for youth. And I was told by that national organizer, do youth donate and do they vote? Because we're going to prioritize now. So while I've watched marriage campaigns happen, come and go, I've seen hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars spent towards pro-LGBTQ equality, focusing on adults. And at that same time, I get to work with kids. One story in particular, a 15-year-old gay student who was outed at his school. He was outed, no fault of his own. School calls, what do? We don't want to get sued, big deal. And then we figured out, okay, we can get the student maybe to go stay at a friend's that place that night, and made those adjustments and tried to figure out what else we can do to help support the student. I call a couple days later to check on that student. How is he doing? How are things going? Well, he went back to his parents' house and they sent him away. What do you mean they sent him away? They sent him away. No one else was asking, what happened to that kid? Is he okay? Did he make it where he was going okay? Is he on the streets? He just vanished. And everyone at that school in town just acted like he never existed. A couple years later, there was a student, a teenager, killed here in Northeast Iowa. He was beat to death, a youth of color. When he was beat to death, his killers kept saying the word faggot to him over and over again. That was some of the last words he heard. And I remember calling news reporters, calling these national organizations, hey, you've got a lot of money. We could probably do a campaign ad on this. This is a big deal. We can make some change happen. That's nice. Got a little blurb in the Advocate. Nothing else. Then, in 2016, we had a student in Southeast Iowa, a gender-fluid youth who was walking home, picked up by two individuals, and was taken back to their place, tortured, and murdered, and left in an alley. 2016 this happened. Hey, we should be talking about this. They killed this kid because of their gender identity. We should be adding this to the state's hate crimes law. We should be making this a big deal. Why aren't we out there with pitchforks trying to find the killers and change things? Got a little blurb, just ignored. And then just this week, I talked to a GSA president, and he had found out 2 weeks ago there was a student at his school that completed suicide. And that was after they came out to their parents and they had been rejected. So for that queer youth experience, we're not seeing the change happen. If you can get to the age of 18, you have a lot of rights, liberties, and freedoms. But for our youth, they're not there yet. We haven't put our money where our mouth is on that. And so what we've seen, though, is for millennials, it's a changing world. 50% of millennials believe that gender and sexuality are fluid. We're also seeing youth come out younger and younger. I just got to work with a bunch of fifth graders, who got to pick a class project. You know what they got to pick? LGBTQ rights. They're going to hang a pride flag at their elementary school in the gym. And they're doing that because they have bisexual and transgender peers. And I think that's pretty cool and gives me a lot of hope. But what we know is we have a lot more work to do to support our LGBTQ youth in their schools. For one, we gotta have a conversation amongst us as a queer family. Fam, I gotta talk to Fam for a second here. Hi, girl. Hey, girl. Hey. Yeah, we gotta have a chat. Because I know there's resources available. I know we can make a difference for LGBTQ youth, and we gotta be supporting our own. I need you to be donating to those GSAs, your LGBTQ youth groups, homeless shelters, mental health facilities, whatever you can do to make a difference. I know the resources are there, and we have to stop talking about wedding cakes and wedding cake bakers. I'm done with it, because we got kids that are in crisis. So fam, get it together. We can do this for our little village, because it takes a village to raise a kid. And that means our schools, our mental health providers, faith communities, educators, all those folks in those helping professions. I need your help. First off, if you have any prejudice in your heart, helping professions probably aren't for you. Sorry to say, you should probably go into another career. And if you do have a full heart that wants to and believes in these kids and wants to help them out, then we need to be giving you the tools and resources and know how to do that. That means understanding transgender students and their rights, using the right pronouns, using the right name, helping them change forms, helping them support a gay-straight alliance at their school. Because when you do these things, shocking, I know, but those statistics that I mentioned, they go down in those schools that do that. Students are more likely to feel safe. They're less likely to have suicidal risks if you support them. Isn't that a novel idea? When you support a human being, they are more whole and they're less likely to experience bad things. Finally, for our parents and our family out there with LGBTQ youth, you got a special place in my heart. And especially the parents of trans kids. I understand that there is a mourning period that takes place when your child comes out as transgender. You mourn the loss of a son or a daughter. But I need you to get it together a little bit faster. Because every day that you're mourning that loss, your son or daughter is getting more distant from you now. You got to get it together. You got 3 jobs as a parent. 1, you got to love your kid. 2, you better be their champion. And 3, you better protect them. That's your jobs. And you got to be there for them. And as parents, you've got to ask questions. You've got to go get support if you need it, whatever you can do. but you got to get to a place of love a lot faster, because we're losing too many students to suicide and bullying and rejection. It's happening far too often. If we can do these things, we can create these safe spaces. But it takes each and every one of us to be involved and active. We should be asking questions. We should be giving tools and resources to those in those helping professions. We should be empowering parents. And we need to empower our gay straight alliances, our GSAs, our student organizations on campuses. Whatever we can do to let people be their full self. And it will happen. There's a quote about "we will be citizens" when you talk about LGBTQ rights. And we're seeing that. We will be citizens. That time will come when we're no longer in the shadows, we're not dying silent deaths anymore. We're there. But when we hear those stories, we need to share it, we need people to be aware, we need to empower folks, we need to help our youth. Thank you.